how are you? My name is Nancy Baskett, and I speak a little bit of Cherokee. I come from Washington State. I've been here for 27 years. And I came back here to the South so I could learn stories of respect to teach my 6 children. Mom didn't know it. She's German. My dad's Cherokee. Grandma didn't want to have anything to do with the Cherokee culture. She wanted to be like everybody else. You could get your kids taken away a long time ago, sent to boarding schools. Horrible things happened there. And maybe she didn't want that for us, or maybe it didn't matter to her anymore. But I always asked too many questions. And Mom said, this was a long, long time ago, before Google, you know, and you have encyclopedias with a yearly update. That's how you kept in touch. That was a well-educated family, if you could afford that. Well, Mom said, Nancy, you asked too many questions. I don't have all the answers. So you go out into the world and you find some good ones, and when you do, would you come back and share them with me? My mom is 83. She lives with me now and has for 2.5 years, and she's getting dementia. So whenever I go out, I tell her about what my exploits were, and she shakes her head because she's been with me on many of the journeys, and then we have a good time sharing our lives together. There are many things that I have learned coming down here about Cherokee stories and how they affect your life. How they affected us back in the day was one thing. How we tell them now is another. We have had 35 years or more of Sesame Street. And, you know, if you don't do that, and if you're not an edutainment experience, why should people listen? You don't want them to go to sleep, especially after they've been sitting there for half an hour just waiting. You know. So I came back here to learn the stories, and then I did. The first one I learned I'm going to share with you because it's important. It's about how nature affects all of us, how we are the same as a rock, the water, the air, another being. We're all the same. We all vibrate at the same frequency so that we can see each other. The world is about music. The world is about sound and how powerful a word is. We've come to forget that in the time we live right now. But the scientists are coming back to that again, and they're seeing that the Cherokee stories aren't myth, they're not made up, they're based in fact. How do you take that apart? How do you analyze that with somebody who knows the culture, the tradition, and how can we explore the things that will connect us back together? We're all one part of a huge family, and those of us who understand that will be out here longer, knowing that we're going to learn something, we're going to feel better about ourselves, because it's not about a longhouse like this, it's about being outside. That's where you can feel the energy better. Long, long time ago, I ripped up a piece of kudzu and I was going to make it into a basket. I did, and they fell apart in 4 days. And I was down here in Union, South Carolina, close to where I thought Pacolet in this place was, but that's another story. I was down there, and I had come, and I'm from the north, and I was quick and fast, and I had to learn how to slow my speech down so that people could understand. We don't have to be so fast here in the South. And part of that is because it's too darn hot most of the time. You know, and if you speed up, you wear yourself out and you're dead because you can't go that fast. Okay. Some people think that they know everything that there is in the world, and they have an assumption that keeps you in a path without wanting to know anything around it. So I made these baskets and they fell apart, and I'm thinking, that's not fair. I've been a basket maker for 10 years and I know how to make baskets, wah, wah, wah. And then I understood, oh, okay, it's about that story. It's about coming down here, learning how to tell the stories and learn what they are to teach my 6 kids. Because Grandma didn't know or didn't want to know to teach me. Long time ago, little boys went around and they kicked frogs. And little boys kicked so many frogs it gave them warts. And they went home and all their families had warts. And the leader of the frogs went to Creator and said, hey, Creator, little boys forgot that all things are connected, and what they do to us are going to do to themselves one day. What are we going to do? And Creator said, let me think about this. And they went back down. Little girls weren't left out of the equation. They didn't like bugs, and they went around and they, ew, bugs, I don't like bugs. And they stepped on them and squished them, and it was horrible. And the bugs said to themselves, you know, leader of the bugs, you need to go tell Creator that little girls forgot that all things are connected, and what they do to us, they're going to do to themselves one day. They're going to want a turkey dinner one of these days to impress somebody or family members, and there won't be any more turkeys because turkeys eat bugs. It's going to get out of hand. Creator said, yeah, this is right. Let me think about it a little longer. In our culture, when a girl's body turns into that of a woman, she doesn't hunt for big game anymore. She allows the men to take care of her. And we stay home and we do other things, back in the day, of course. But it wouldn't hurt us to understand that we can be equal, but we can have different jobs. No one is above the other. So the little girls and little boys went out together to hunt the deer. And they didn't want the deer for the dress anymore or for the clothes. They just wanted to shoot something and kill it. And this is horrible. They were going against tradition, what their elders had taught them. And the deer were dying, so Awi Usti, little deer, went to Creator and said, Creator, this is out of hand. You know, it's going to get all misshapen here pretty soon. What are we going to do? Creator said, okay, the two-leggeds I made, forgot that they are animals too. They're not plants, they're not rocks. So you have to make them sick. You make them sick, and when they lay on the ground, maybe they'll remember that I made them out of the same clay I made you out of. You're all relatives. Oh, they said, we can do that. So they went down, and they all got into their clans. And the swimmers said, ooh, we're going to get into their dreams. We fish are, and they're going to think of stinky, rotten fish, and then they won't sleep, and that'll be good, because then they won't be, yes, that was their gift to the humans, so that the humans can learn. The bear said, well, I'm going to cut off my claws, and I'm going to learn how to pull a bow and arrow, and I'm going to shoot them like they shoot us. They're not asking permission anymore, they're just shooting. And the other bear said, but if you do that, we're not going to be able to feed ourselves. We can't do that, bear. So they did nothing at all. But the creepy crawly clan got those girls back, let me tell you. And they said, you know, we're going to make those girls' back hurt every month for a long time of their life, and then they're going to have a hard time having children, and then they're going to remember that they killed us for no reason. And the leader of those creepy crawlies was a worm, and he was on a log. And he laughed at that. He thought it was so funny. He fell off the log. He broke his back. And today it goes like this. And he reminds us that when we become the leaders of anything and we have to correct somebody's thinking or understanding, don't do it by laughing at them. So the other microscopic little bugs that we wouldn't even know about until we got microscopes, they said, ooh, we're going to leap on the back of the mice and the rats, and we're going to go all over the world spreading illness. And they did. And there was bubonic plague and black plague and all kinds of horrible things that came over from the other worlds to ours and started killing people by the thousands and millions. And the plant said, wait a minute, Creator, you know, you said that all things are connected, and if we're all really connected to each other, and you kill all those two-leggeds, then everything that you will made on this earth will be for nothing. And they said, please, Creator, allow us to give medicine to the people who still remember how to speak with us. And each of us plants will give a cure for one of the diseases that the animals gave the two-leggeds. And that's where the Cherokee really feel that we got the healing medicines from the plants to this day, for those of us who have plant medicine. But we don't all have the same medicine. We aren't given the same job. You guys would call it a mission, but we would call it a medicine, because some of us understand animals. I don't, because I'm on the road so long, I can't have an animal because I couldn't take care of it well. Hey, I got fish, that counts, koi fish. And then, you know, they kind of go dormant in the winter anyway. But some of us understand the plants, and I can actually hear them speak. Now, you might lock me up in Bull Street. Well, they tore that place down. It looked too much like the Capitol, you know, in Columbia, South Carolina. But I can get away with telling you these things, and maybe you felt some of this too, because I have an artistic license to do so. And I'm also a storyteller, so you could think that I'm just making stuff up. Good, go ahead. And then, think what you want. So I have always told my family, take what you can from the heart of a friend, and with a breath of kindness, blow the rest away. But for those children, I had to add, and when you blow, don't spit. The understanding passed down to us through the elders, and I came down here to hopefully find them someday. And I knew that I'd heard about somebody in Virginia, but I had 6 children. I couldn't just go traipsing around. Where are you going to find them? At a powwow? Hey, maybe, we still hang out and do that. A powwow is where we sing and we dance and we tell stories. And if you've never been to a good powwow, you need to go. Because some of us are there to demonstrate and to answer your questions. So I get to be the storyteller at a lot of the powwows down in South Carolina. You can do anything out of whatever's in your backyard if you can align yourself to understanding. You might have to read some books. You might have to have somebody show you how. The interest has to be there first before you find the answers. After those baskets fell apart a long, long time ago, I said, oh, okay, I'm sorry. So I went out to the plants where I ripped them up. Honest to goodness, this is a true story. And I went out there and I spent a lot of time and I said, hey, plants, I'm sorry. How can I use you? There was silence for a long time. I'd never talked to plants before, but I go, okay, fine. Because sometimes you're compelled to do something. And you don't have to answer why to anybody else. It doesn't have to make sense to anybody else. Go out and do it. You might find a cure for something. I didn't find a cure for anything. I just heard the leaves say, and it's not like they have lips and they can speak, but there was a thought here. Well, I'm not smart enough to have thoughts by myself. And when I go into the public school system as an artist in education for the past 27 years, I have to be very careful about the words I use so I don't Twitter-pate somebody into think I'm preaching religion, because I'm not. So I have to say, well, I get my ideas from the universal library in the sky, where you can check out any book that you want and you just create it to the librarian, give credit. Okay, that gets me by, and it, shoes me in with the media specialist, and I try to include everybody because it's the truth. Just because we're different doesn't mean it's bad or evil, it's just a different perspective. But right now, we're so polarized in opposites that nobody wants to meet in the middle and talk about anything. We got to get over that because our words have power. And if we only spew forth anger, that's an energy and we get what we think about. So I went out there and I said I was sorry. And they said, leave the trees alone. Use us kudzu for paper instead. And I'm a smart aleck. I don't know if you figured that out yet. But the Cherokee, if we don't tease you, we don't like you much. And if we can tease a little bit and we can see you get all hot and bothered, well then, I think I better leave you alone. Because back in the day, we would know that something was wrong. Because we would always, it's kind of a testing to see where you can stand and who can take a joke and who can talk about things, or if you say nothing at all and just, if you can't work out a problem with somebody and you've tried, then in our culture, we would see you coming, we would turn around and we'd go in a different direction. And then there would be no conflict. So I think that some of us need that again, but hey, we could be turning around very abruptly, from everybody, and then that wouldn't solve anything either. So the plant said, leave the trees alone, use us for paper instead. And I said, but I'm a basket maker. I've been making baskets for 10 years. Silence. So I'm working at this private school. They'd never had an art teacher. They're teaching my 6 children instead of giving me money to teach it. Good trade, But it was very conservative, and it's in a small town 30 years ago, far, far away from anything. So I'm thinking, oh man, I got to be careful of my words, but sometimes you only learn how to do that when you've done it the wrong way. So I made paper from kudzu leaves, and I experimented with the kids. I had no money for materials or supplies, so I used my interest to encourage them, and it was the first time they'd had art in the whole time that they'd been established. Now, art and music and science and math, it all goes together, especially now So where do you start? Well, you start with turning it into paper. These are kudzu leaves turned into paper. But you have to do something stinky. You have to put the kudzu leaves in water for a week in the hot summer sun. Now, I've got a bunch of these in the car, and I can show you later if you care to stay a little longer so I can get them out. I just wanted to start talking because you've been here, early. I have my home is my studio, my gallery, and my kudzu bale barn. Now, down the road from here, you probably know my friends, Henry and Edith Edwards, Kudzu Cow Farm, and they bale up kudzu. Do you know them? Well, you need to get to know them because you can still buy the bales of kudzu. Well, about 19 years ago, they came out with kudzu bales on their farm truck, and they came to Walhalla, where I live, and they helped me build a barn out of kudzu bales. It has been there for 100 years, so has my house. How do you know? Because I took out the bricks from a chimney that didn't work anymore, and they fell apart in the rain. There's no cement in there. It was before cement. So I've got a kudzu bale barn. I have 8-foot sculptures that I sewed together out of the pieces that the kids didn't want anymore, because I've been teaching in school for so long. And I have things for you to see there. Everything that you can do with kudzu is now open to the public. So you're going to have to come and see me because you're not going to believe it. I'm not going to show you slides because we need to get used again to the oral tradition. Well, it worked for us for thousands of years. And you can, behind a screen, you can say anything that you want to. They're not really out there. Oh, yes, they are.
How far away?
Oh, well, you go down here and you get on 26 and get onto 11. I am 2 blocks off of 11. Mm-hmm.
So you're half an hour, 45 minutes away.
No, I'm not, but thank you for asking. I'm about an hour and a half, I think. An hour and a half. I'm in Walhalla, South Carolina.
Oh, yeah.
Where's that? Well, it's 20 minutes north of Clemson.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm in the Carolinas where the 2 Carolinas meet Georgia. Okay, in that corner, that's where I'm at. And I'm almost downtown. We need to let our kids know again that they need to be connected to nature. They spend too much time like this, and that is actually an energy field that sucks the life out of them if they don't get a balance outside. The teachers, anybody here been a teacher? Okay, well, it's called nature deficiency now, and that's a disease that our kids actually have. They don't know what camping is, how we did anything back in the day. If we had no electricity, our world would change. And any kid born after there was no electricity, it wouldn't matter what we older people said, they wouldn't believe us. And 2 generations down, then they would get that from their mom because their mom heard it from the grandma. And then 3, it doesn't exist, except for the buildings that are still there. Hey, they all worshiped in those things, That's what they say about Native people when they look at our structures. Because you always go to that, oh, they're worshiping some other god. No, we don't. But if you don't have somebody that you can trust to ask your questions from, then all you get is an angry Indian. And I don't want to be even called an Indian, because in the library, American Indian and Indian American are right here. And it's very confusing for kids. We never came from anywhere else. And in fact, the Cherokee say that we have stories going back 50,000 years. If you don't believe me, we have what's called the Topper site in South Carolina. And my friend Al Goodyear is standing up to all the other archaeologists who are calling him an idiot because he went down and found a campsite not too far down when he dug. And he thought, oh, this is cool. What if we dug over here and dug deeper and we could find something else? And they did. They dug down so deep, it's about a hole from the ceiling to here. I've been there. I've seen it. And they carbon tested, dated a piece of the campfire. It's 50,000 years old. But you can't go on TV and say that if all the other archaeologists said, no, he's an idiot. He didn't show us a proof. And I looked at some of those guys and I said, you know, I went down there and there was this young Caucasian kid. He was about 25. And I said, hey, please tell Dr. Goodyear that he's my hero, because he's actually proving that we could have been here 50,000 years ago. He goes, well, it could have been the Europeans coming over and it's some odd theory, and one archaeologist laughed and said, oh, we don't even believe that anymore. But that was funny. And I said, so he said that, and I said, oh, yes. And my elder said, we had to bury him somewhere. Now, it doesn't mean that we killed him, okay? But if somebody's here to bury your arse when you get here, who was here first? So I have to explain that, because, you know, you can get an assumption that I'm angry, and I'm not. I'm passionate about what I believe. I am excited that I was given a job that I could go into the public school system and plant seeds of respect. Now, I used to say, infiltrate the public school system, and that's a funny joke. Not after 9/11, I could get on a terrorist watch list, and I'm probably there anyway. If you don't deal with life with a little bit of humor, you're going to sit there and sour. And then you can start spewing forth all kinds of, my life hasn't been great, I didn't learn anything, the world is against me, and I don't believe that. It doesn't matter what happens to you. What matters is how you deal with it. And I think anybody that would come and find this center out here and love doing something for the environment, even though it might not change people's ideas about climate change, I don't know if that's real. I just know that we need to think about things. How can we make things better in our area? How can we preserve places where people can go and walk in the woods? These are all important endeavors. So this is why I wanted to come today and talk with you. Now, do you have any questions on what I've said so far? Because you can get deeper into anything that I've said if you ask a question. Yes?
All right, so you take the kudzu leaves,
Mm-hmm.
you put them in water
Mm-hmm.
a week.
2 weeks.
2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And does it matter what temperature the water is?
No, you're getting too technical, lady. No, but thank you very much for asking. Honest, our sun is so hot here in the summer, 2 weeks in water, but you gotta cover it. If not, the squirrels fall in and drowned. The birds fall in and drowned. And somebody said, ooh, is it toxic? That's why they drowned. No, I don't know why they fell in. Put the lid on. Because then, don't do it in your house, because it smells. And it's funky, it's great fertilizer, it's alkaline, so you pour the juice off, it's very stinky and green, and it doesn't stay stinky long, and then you have to hose out the kudzu leaves, and they've kind of fallen apart a little bit, and I have to put a little bit of bleach with it. If you don't like bleach, use the extra strong hydrogen peroxide that you can get from a pool supply, and then that's less toxic for the earth, but I don't use that much, and I'm not a factory using millions of gallons. That's why I clarify what I do. It's justification, but you know, I can handle a little bit. And then they don't stink anymore. If you don't use bleach, they're going to stink for a long time without stopping. You close it up, they're still going to stink. I don't know, it's just, you know, retting, R-E-T-T-I-N-G. It's a French word, it means rot, but it sounds better. So after that then, I squeeze them out with gloves on, and the gloves are to protect me from the stink. Because I went into the house once and I had done this and I smelled for 2 days, nobody could stand me. So they made a special perfume just for me that was kudzu flavored, and I, honest to goodness, had to put that all over me before I could come in the house. So we don't make that anymore, but that's part of the story. So after this, then, you have the kudzu leaves. I mix half and half. I cut up the kudzu leaves, because if not, they're still so strong, the fiber in those leaves, that they're going to wrap around your blender and chew it up. Then you have to go to a thrift store and get another one. There's a good one down there in Landrum. You know, I know. So you do that, you mix it up. Now it looks like a cow pie. We're old enough to know what a cow pie is, okay? Kids at school wouldn't have a clue. So you get this now, and I put RIT dye in mine to get my color. Now, I could tell you that it's all natural, and I could call it boxberry. Comes from Ingalls in a box. But you know, I'm just saying you got to be careful and ask for clarification on what words mean.
Especially with you.
Well, yes. Come on now. I try to put people at ease because some of the things I say are kind of outrageous. And sometimes, don't we need a different perspective just to tweak our mental capacities? And can't we be friends enough to ask a question, but what do you mean by this? But what about this? Ooh, I know about that. Here's what I know about that. What do you know about that? Oh, I didn't know about that. Now I'm a wiser person because I got to meet you today. And that's the way that I truly feel. So after you do that, I put the pulp into a vat. Let's say it's blue. I put blue in there. I take a plastic needlepoint canvas, I dip it underneath, I scoop it up, I have gloves on, okay? And, because I used red once, and I have my apron on, and I had red all up here and red here, and I had to go into the house to answer the post lady who was new. And she goes, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm in the barn dying." And she goes, "Oh!" And different words can be said the same, but they have a total, honest to goodness, it happened once. So after that, then you scoop the pulp up onto the screen, you transfer it to a felt, and then I take a rolling pin and I get the water out, take that screen off, it transfers to the felt. So I take that then and hang it up on my clothesline for 2 days with a fan. It's oscillating. And the oscillation then dries it overnight most of the time. Then I have one color. I am very fortunate because I have my daughter working with me. Her name is Jolene, and she's at the shop now giving tours and taking care of the business so I can be different places. I had to close the shop for a while because I was never there because I was somewhere else. Because it's hard to get people there when it's an hour and a half down the road. But it's field trip, and while you're there, when you come to my house, you can see Issaquena Falls. That was never her name. Some guy in '96, a superintendent of public instruction, got the story 30 years before, tweaked it, is a queena for a Cherokee person. Come on, we didn't have queens and kings. He says he made it up in a book. I've got those pages. 6 Mile, 20 Mile, 18 Mile were named before he made the story up, 30 years before. I'm just saying, sounds good, and back in the day, I guess people couldn't read as much as we can now, and so a storyteller would come around and it would get passed down, put in a book by some old person, and then everybody loved that old person who passed down misinformation, and that's why Chimney Rock, I told them to take that one piece down, which they did. And it said some weird stuff from 1928 that some lady wrote assuming that the Cherokees did all this stuff, and I said, none of that is true. And if you want me to come back, take it down. Save it in your archives, but anything that's written before 1950 and even the books after that, if Native American people aren't writing the books, be careful about what you're reading. Ask somebody. So you can ask somebody, that would be me. I am your Native American consultant, if you choose. NancyBasket.com. Yeah, I got cards to prove it.
Okay. So tell me about how broad the Cherokee territory, like for instance, are we on previous Cherokee land?
Probably.
Probably.
It's really close. I mean, have you found dig sites? Have you found arrowheads? Arrowheads aren't big, people, because an arrowhead like that, it would, it's a spear point. So we call them projectile points. They're very small, probably, but we extended not too far much over because then you're in the Catawba area. Catawba, South Carolina, they're still there. And we're 1 square mile left in South Carolina. That's our only federally recognized Native people in the state. There are different groups, but they're just groups of descendants. They might know something, they might not. It depends. Our family knows certain things, and we pass that down as ultimate truth if you're not connected to North Carolina. And in North Carolina, it's an I am, you're not. We never had chiefs. That was forced on us by the United States government. We had Atawahi, which were the spiritual leaders, one for each direction. But they wanted to cut out the religion so they can get one person just to ratify whatever the United States tells them. So they found those people, and some of those people are still there and causing trouble, but that's my point of view. But you could ask several of my friends up there, but if you're having a job, you have to be careful about what you say. So it's my job not to join anything. Because if I do, I'll get kicked out. Because I'm a radical. And people think that I am just totally nuts sometimes, but that's okay because I'm a storyteller, I'm an artist, that's my perspective. I draw outside the lines. So what would happen if everybody just dared to draw outside of a line somewhere? I think we would connect with each other just a little bit better. I'm going to tell you a word. The word is haboo, H-A-B-O-O. It is a word from one of the 250 different languages that Native American people still speak. There are more than 600 separate different nations of Native American people in the United States right now. And one word is haboo. It means, are you listening? Do you understand? And I brought that with me from the Northwest Coast. It's good to bring something of where you were born with you. Even if it's not your culture, you bring it with you. And then you can come and learn your own when you get to the place where maybe you were born a long time ago. We believe in coming back over and over and over again until everybody gets it right. And in the end, that's the secret. In the end, nobody's left out. Everybody wins. Now, you can disagree with that. I'm not trying to convert. I am just telling you through all of the hundreds of lessons that the elders gave me, that's the end piece. So we don't have to be against anybody. So when we see somebody that's just not understanding the earth, not understanding nature, hurting stuff, doing it for money, I have to look at them and say, I start singing a song, Paul Simon's song, maybe it's their first time around, dun, 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 dun. Well, at least it gives them some latitude until they catch on, and maybe it'll take them several lifetimes to catch on. I don't know. But I don't have to castigate, denigrate, denounce anybody for not believing in a more positive light. And so I'm still, and sometimes, I Twitter pate my Jewish friends. If you're Jewish, I apologize right now. I should apologize to everybody, because if I don't Twitter pate somebody somewhere, I'm not doing my job. There is a Jewish prayer for everybody, even your enemy. And the prayer is, Lord, bless and keep them far away from me. Hey, it sounds kind of Cherokee to me. You know, if you can't get along, turn the other way. Who's got another question?
Do you know how your Cherokee ancestor got to the West Coast?
It was the other way around. Yeah, pretty much. We, long time ago, when everybody had to walk on the Trail of Tears, it was a horrible time. Some of my ancestors got off in Kingston, Arkansas. That's where Dad was born. Okay, this is about 1934, not too long after the dust storm, dust bowl. You got sick, you couldn't raise a crop anymore, and so Grandma made Grandpa move to the Northwest Coast. Why? Because somebody knew there was water out there, and I was born out there when Dad met Mom in high school. They had just graduated. But that's another story. I went to her 60th anniversary reunion. She said, don't tell anybody how old you are. That is so funny. So I sat in the back with some of those I love older people. You find so much great information. I sat in the back with them, and I told them, they start laughing. They said, don't you listen to your mom? She said, we've all done some of that. I said, I'm going to hang out with these people. So I couldn't walk any farther west because I'd fallen into the Pacific Ocean. So I came out here to learn the stories of respect to teach my children. So the stories have drawn me all of my life. I was the kid who sat down and listened to the whole family, who did what to whom and why they're not family members anymore. And, it was important. I didn't want to go outside and hang out with my cousins, because I did that once and they hogtied me, literally, in the backyard. And somebody had to come and rescue me. So I'd rather sit and listen to old people, and that has influenced my life. Just like, why do people grow up to be doctors or lawyers or Native American leaders, Indian chiefs? It just depends on what we think we can do for the people or what we think we can do for money. I think if I was in the public school system as a teacher, had I gotten my degree, because I had a year of college, and I passed up a scholarship so I could come out here. Now, why would anybody in their right mind do that? Because we're led by a different sound, a different vibration. It's a part of who we are. I always ask questions. I had to go find out. Okay, how can you find out? In a book? I don't think so. You can't call up somebody and say, hey, can you tell me the story? And people have asked me that. Do you want the answer in 25 words or less? I've been asked on television a lot, hey, tell me that story. So once I started really quick to tell a long story, and you only got 2 or 3 seconds. And so it sounded like I was an idiot. So how do you condense a long story down? How do you put it into rhyme, short, most of the time, so the kids and everybody else can remember that? That's who we are now. We don't think like we did back in the day. I know what we did back in the day, and I wouldn't want some of that coming back. But some of it I would. I think it would make a lot of difference. Who's got another question?
Do you keep the recordings, oral recordings, or written recordings? I hate to say written because of what you just said.
Yeah.
Just to preserve your story.
I've often said I'm going to write a book.
For the world.
Well, there you get into trouble. Now, some of the stories were written down by a man named Mooney. If you want to look at the stories, myths and other sacred formulas of the Cherokee, okay? And in the back, it's all of the chants, all of the words to be said in Cherokee, how to make things happen. I told you in the beginning, words have power. But they have to be said in the right tone and inflection at the right time with the right intent in a time when people believe that. So using those now wouldn't do any good, but he wrote them down and he stole them, he lied, he cheated, he was a young punk from the Smithsonian. And he put his understanding, his European understanding on top of everything, ripped this part out, that doesn't make sense, I'm not going to tell them that, they're not going to believe this part, put other stories in on top of it, mixed it all up. And so the elders don't even want to read that stuff anymore. But those kinds of stories, I can understand from all the lessons I've gone through how to take them apart. But that takes a long time. And it takes a lot of scientific explanation, mathematical explanation, and thank goodness now we've got all the cable television shows and Netflix and Gaia.com because they're putting a different perspective together. I think a lot of us have been hoodwinked for a long time, believing what we see on TV, and that's not the only thing there is. That's why we have books. That's why we have researchers who take off in a different direction. So, like Al Goodyear, what happens to the 12,000-year-old theory that, all natives are really Asians that came over that land bridge? We don't buy into that. We send our people to school, they get their degrees, and they have refuted that. Here's why that can't happen. Well, if you don't ever know what that book is, how can you read that for yourself? But these are the kind of books I read in high school because that was my bent. Did I say to anybody that I'm Native? Why? You'll just get in trouble. Nobody's going to believe you. You have to get awake first. And I think it takes some of us women about till we're 35 to become awake. There are different stages in our development, honest to goodness. And about 35, you think, hey, I don't have to be Donna Reed wearing pearls and heels at dinner time. Honest, you know what I mean? If you're old enough to remember those shows. Okay, well, I knew you were. Yeah. Anybody with a little gray hair. Now see, I like teasing older people because I honor them. And in the Cherokee tradition, you know more than me. And so I want to be able to talk with you and hang out for a while so that we can learn deeper truths and share those together. And it's not just about making a basket. It's about what are we talking about? Current events, not my class. No, we're going to talk about something that's important, why I'm here, because we don't get this time very much. And then I have to go, and we might never see each other again, or you might show up on my doorstep. That would be a good thing. This is a kudzu basket. I made it to hold my fours. These are what I call fours here, because I have hundreds of them. I have 300 designs, different designs, and they all tell the stories on the back. So I can't record any of the stories except for the ones that would be already published in something like Mooney. I do need to record them for my grandchildren, and probably I won't do it until I'm almost dead. Hey, I'm going to live another 20 years, you know, because my relatives last a long time. Honest, because people don't like... Some of the Cherokee stories belong to the Cherokee people, and they're not living up there in Cherokee now. A lot of the elders live in other places, and they're still carrying the traditions on. But you're not going to get any of us to tell you who they are unless you kind of go there in person, and it takes a long time for them to know who you are. You might have to come and see me 4 times before I remember your name, and I know thousands of people. And it's not because you're not important, it's because I'm old and foggy. See, I pretend I'm old all the time just to hang out with the people who are. So see, I mean, you can make a basket do whatever you want it to do, and this is random free form. That's going to Twitter-pate you. If you're all very linear, neat, and tidy, and you had a job once to where if you got a number wrong or a word wrong, you killed somebody, this might hurt you at first because there's hardly any rules. But the rules are, if the kids in school don't find out in about 30 seconds how to do something, they get mad. And then they feel they're stupid. And then they don't want anybody looking at them because, you know, I just took a class myself at John Campbell Folk Art School. Hubba hubba. They let me teach there. And I was taking a class, you know, and oh, my friend was from the Northwest Coast, and she was one of the ones who was in the first basketry guild in the modern United States, in modern times. 1981 we formed that. And I found some older friends on an island called Mukilteo on Whidbey Island. And I was in Mukilteo on the mainland. And I had 6 kids, well, 4 then. But I'd have to go by the ferry, and it took forever to get out there. And her house was full of everything in the world that she'd learned from native people. And I said, I can't come out here all the time and spend the time I want with you. There's so much that I want to learn. Would you consider moving this to the mainland? So Vi Phillips did. And we had the guild on the mainland, so it was right across the street from my house. I'm very biased about what I ask people to do. But because of that basket guild, there are basket associations all across the United States now. I happen to be the president because they didn't want to be the president, but in your late 20s, you know, anything's possible. So I'm glad that we started things like that because it's continuing. That is a legacy. So you have to start with the hard stuff because you can't make a basket with me in 2 hours or less. I don't know what's in your head, but get out of it now. If you're in my class, we're going to make something smaller so you can learn a technique. So you can learn how to take a vine like this and split it. This is kudzu. It gets big and thick too. I got the whole back end of my car. Hey, that's why I was a little bit late. I'm looking on the side of the road. Where can I get more? Where can I get more? I can't go 80 miles an hour. I'll get picked up and then it'll be terrible. But see, you split it. And you split it again. Now, why did I learn how to do this? Because I did it wrong. And I picked the green leaves and the vines. Well, they have a little tiny hair on them, and they have 3 leaves on them, you know. I took them to school, and the kids wouldn't believe, nor would the teachers, that leaves of 3 let it be. It's kudzu. It's not. Oh, yes, it did. And it was not poison ivy. It just irritated their skin, and one person itched, and then the whole school was itching in my class. I didn't get invited back. It's psychosomatic. It's our assumption. But they believed what they believed. So you keep splitting this, keep splitting it, and you can do anything with it. Tie it in a knot. Why? Because kids now don't know, even in the 5th grade, how to tie a knot. They can't tie a double knot. I have to break it down into something else for them. They don't know how to do this anymore. That is horrid. So I do this with kindergartners. They get to split the vine. If they don't do it right, I don't care, because I'll take that and their little pieces and I'll sew them into a basket like that. It's hairy, it's primitive, ooh, rustic. You have to tell them what it is, because if not, well, that doesn't look like a basket. Well, it will if I keep putting some sides on it and go up. If I put a handle on it, that's the base. You start from the middle like an oval braided rug and you work your way out. So don't throw anything away, find another purpose for that. Who's got a question?
Do you have to let that dry?
No, you have to use it fresh and green.
Fresh and green?
Yes, and it's not green, it's white.
So you picked it this morning, yesterday?
Not this morning, because it gets dark too late now. I've got to find the poison ivy, because what I didn't tell you about taking that class, my friend said, oh, wouldn't I said to myself, a root handle. I'm from the Northwest. I say root. Keeps a tree in the ground, root. And a root handle would look really nice in this basket. So I said, I can do that. And I looked around, but it's fall. The leaves are falling off the sticks in front of me. I knew better than this, but I dug in the ground and I got some roots out with a stick and I washed those pretty red roots off. Don't do it. It's poison ivy. So I washed it off and I got so horribly coated. I got it on my face because I was going like this in awe and wonder at the slideshow presentation. Got it on my face. And now you can see, maybe if you look carefully, when my hands get cold, I'll have scars for about a year. It's deep down. So just because I've made baskets now for about 40 years doesn't mean that digging roots like I did in the Northwest forest equates the same with southeastern woods. And I'm thinking, why did I get into this? I didn't have a better perspective. I didn't go all the way around that tree. Maybe there's something on the other side that was hidden from me, and the roots are in the ground. So where do your roots go? How do they lead up into the tree of life that, we can all sit in together somehow and sing a bird song? Because I make the kids sing a bird song. It's great.
Can we sing?
Okay, yes, I think we need to bust out in song. It's her fault if you don't want to sing. Okay, now some languages are real hard to understand the words, but in the Apache language, it's easy. What are some of the bird sounds we have in English? Tweet. What else? Caw. Hoo, 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 hoo. Rock, buck, 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 buck. Okay, we have different onomatopoeia so that in the English language we can kind of know which bird says what. Well, in Apache, birds sing, and they sing she won't, she won't, she won't, she won't. Sing with me 4 times now. She won't, she won't, she won't, she won't. Now, we have to do this as a chorus, okay? You're the chorus of birds in the tree of life. And I have to have my American Idol moment, because they let old people on there, And I get to sing 4 verses before you get to do anything. And when I get to the tree, I'll go like this. We'll shoo-whoomp for a minute, but then you keep shoo-whoomping. So I'll know where the tree is. But I'm going to fly out somewhere else with my voice. I can't fly high very long because I'm an alto. And I need to come around and find some good news and bring it back to you in the tree. So you have to keep shoo-whomping when I'm like this. Does that explain what you're singing? Because if I don't explain it, man, I have some people in Greenville that got me drawn into the principal's office because they thought I was singing something satanic. They didn't know. I have to write words on the board, honest to goodness, because when you look into this, on the middle, there is a white, looks like a styrofoam cup. It's pith, people. P-I-T-H, pith. There was a kid with a lisp who thought I said a bad word, and I got hauled in the principal's office. I'm going to write a book, but you have to write. So, we'll talk more later, but we've got to sing now. So, here is the Apache bird song. She willy kuma she willy kamaha, she willy womp. She willy kuma she willy kamaha, she willy womp. She willy kuma kamaha, she willy kamaha, she willy kamaha, she willy womp. She willy kuma kamaha, she willy kamaha, she willy womp. She womp, she womp, she womp, she womp, she womp. She my nigh tie nigh lie nigh my lee lo. She my nigh tie nigh lie lee lo. She my nigh tie nigh lie nigh my nigh lie nigh my lee lo. She my nigh tie nigh lie lee lo. She womp, she womp, she womp, she womp. Now give yourself a flap. Put your hands in your lap and look good. Thank you. Thank you. Mostly, Cherokee history is about who fought who and what war. That's because some of our male counterparts, and I'm not saying this to diss guys because I love them very much, but history is about war. Who won? Who lost? Well, who cheated? Who were the ones who stayed behind and took over after the men died? We honor our veterans very much, and my son is in the Navy. He's a physician assistant, and he's in Japan, and he gets to come home December 3rd with my 2 grandchildren. And he's got a lovely wife, and she had to learn how to take me, and that was the deal. Honest, because he brought home a twig monster who's about that big, and she looked really good. And I asked her questions, and she didn't have any answers. And all she did was look good. And I said, after she left, if you ever bring anybody like that home again, you might want to reconsider, because they'll take you away if you marry them, and you'll never have your mom and your sisters cooking, and I know how much you love it. And if they can't stand up to our family, they're never going to fit in, and they'll stay away. He, honest to gosh, listened. Christine is lippy, kind of like me. He made a good choice. But he has favorite songs, and he says, Mom, why can't you be like the other Southern mothers? You could take a belt out, hit us, we'd pretend it wouldn't hurt. Oh no, our family has to be so different. You sat us on the couch when you caught us doing something we weren't supposed to, and he said, it took too long. He said, and you told us stories, and I'll never get them out of my head. I said, good, Jeremiah, I win. So now I get to tell my grandchildren the stories too. I edit out the part where he didn't, learn real well. They'll find out that as they need to through his mouth. But he's an excellent father, and I'm very proud of him. So I can tell one more story in closing, and then if you want to leave, you can, because I don't know what time you're going to stay to tell. Nobody wants to leave? Well, you could have pressing engagements, and I don't want to keep you here. So if I see you sneaking out the back, I'll know what that means. If our children are acquainted with everything they see outside as a being, there's a story with that, aren't they going to consider cutting trees down because they can make more money? Or polluting a stream because that's the river of life? I mean, there are all kinds of stories that I tell the grandchildren early on to help prepare them for what their job is now. And all the grandkids think in different directions. Okay, back in the day, we would see what skill the kid had and put them with that kind of person that could encourage it. Yeah, you don't have to know the other skills too, but start them learning early. Quit having to go to college for 4 years, learning the junk stuff that you don't do well. I still don't balance a checkbook. I just intuit when to put in money. Honest. But I've gotten along for about 65 years in December. Medicaid rocks. Now I can. Long time ago, I came down here in 1989, the summer thereof, and right after that was Hugo in September. That ripped those pine trees, the longleaf pine, and I used the longleaf pine to make baskets with. That's one of the reasons I came here, so I can learn the stories of respect. And I told you the story of the pine tree, how it has connected my family, the roots into the earth from the people who were first here. Well, I didn't know any of the language, so I got a tape from Eddie Bushyhead. Now you think his name is funny, but a long time ago the census takers didn't give good names or funny names to some people because they're less than. So Eddie Bushyhead made this song on a tape, and I learned to sing it to my youngest daughter Jolene, who's back at the shop now working. And she didn't know all the words to the song when she and Michael were hit. They were on a go-kart and it got into the road and a truck hit them. And Michael died and Joe was still moving. So Joe was in the hospital for 3 weeks on life support, and then she could breathe on her own. And for the 3 weeks, I would take my eagle feather with me into the hospital room. 15 minutes, 3 times a day is all I got. So I was married, and my husband was taking care of the rest of the kids, and I'd go home and we'd shift, but I was up there the most. And I would sing her this song. And she didn't know all the words, but when she learned how to walk and talk again, she talked very slowly for 1 year. And she wobbled and she didn't have her balance and she had to learn all these things again. I had pictures in her room of her favorite artists, and I had told her the stories of Galaladi, and that's a Cherokee word for the sky vault, heaven, translates to that. When I took her home with me for a while, I said, Joe, do you remember all the words to the song? Can we sing it? And she said, yes. And when we sang it together for the first time, she knew all the words. And I said, Joe, where did you learn all the words? She says, well, Mom, I was up there in a garden, and there was a brick wall in front. Every day, a brick would fall out. She said, Michael couldn't come back with me. But she said, I followed your song through the hole, into the ceiling, and into my body again. I followed the song, and you were at the end of it. I asked a psychiatrist who has us on record, because little kids who come out of a coma like that are always angry, or they're always crying, and Jolene was smiling. And they said, why is your family like that? And I said, we have a different belief system, and it works for us apparently. And he said, people who come out of a coma like that can't make a story up. They are telling what actually happened to them. They are incapable of making things up. So the song goes like this, and in English it says, everything is all right, little one, go to sleep, the night is quiet, go to sleep, go to sleep. Hitla na, jashteka, jashteka, hitla nu, hitla na, hitla na, hitla na, jashteka, jashteka, shunole hashkaja, shunole hashkaja. Thank you for waiting for me. Thank you for being here.